I think that the Los Angeles Chargers are dark horse Super Bowl contenders, and not enough people are talking about this team as we head into this upcoming year. I have so much belief in Justin Herbert, in Jim Harbaugh, in what this duo can do together, and not enough people are giving them the credit that they deserve. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers here, ladies and gentlemen. This was a team that won 11 games last year, and they seemingly really didn't get that much credit for a team that wasn't anything flashy offensively. Their defense was sneaky amazing, and Justin Herbert, yes, fell apart in the playoff game. I think a few of those interceptions weren't his fault, but 4 interceptions on any quarterback is not a great look. Regardless, he's taken that one on the chin, and now the Chargers are moving on to this upcoming year, and it has been a very eventful offseason for this team, to say the least. First of all, you're looking for Justin Herbert to finally win his first playoff game, and that's what I believe the Chargers are capable of doing. They're in a brutal division. We'll cover all of that. Let's dive into some of these offseason moves here. First, for the Chargers, like I mentioned, this offense wasn't anything flashy last year. They were really dominant in the run game. They had that combination of running backs headlined by J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, etc. But this team really upgraded at the running back position, and they started by doing so in the NFL draft, selecting Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, a guy that I'm really excited about, and he's going to have a fun 1-2 punch next to Najee Harris, a former running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers who's now with the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be a great 1-2 punch for what Los Angeles and what Jim Harbaugh is going to try and do with this team offensively. They want to pound the rock. They want to get to that play action game. And that was one of the reasons why Ladd McConkey was so successful last year. He was a rookie wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL as a rookie, had over 1,000 yards. He was tremendous for this Chargers offense. There were so many question marks around the Chargers offense last year. What would they look like with the losses of Keenan Allen, with the losses of Mike Williams? Quentin Johnston hadn't fully emerged into his true self, and we're still waiting to see him do that. But they were relying on a rookie wide receiver in Ladd McConkey out of Georgia to step up for this offense, and that's exactly what he did. He was spectacular last year. We now get year 2 of Ladd McConkey, but I think the Chargers did a great job of really building this receiving core around him. It was eventful. Like I just mentioned, they got rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams 2 seasons ago, and the year after that, both of the guys are back on the team. Mike Williams retires ultimately because of the injuries that he suffered, just such a devastating string of injuries. He couldn't catch a break. He was such a fun wide receiver to watch. Him and Herbert's connection was absolutely awesome. One of the best jump ball receivers when he was playing. He comes back to the Chargers earlier in the offseason, gets banged up, ultimately retires. They then go out and get Keenan Allen, whose time really didn't go over that well with the Bears. He's now back on the Chargers to really fill in that number 3 wide receiver spot. I think a guy that you really need to see step up is Quentin Johnston. I touched on him a little bit ago, but he was a guy that was a first-round pick, a guy out of TCU that was unbelievable in college, a guy that was really supposed to help fill in once Keenan Allen and Mike Williams left, and he's really struggled with drop issues. There's been some promising videos out of camp, but you just can't trust those too much. Like, yes, they're great videos to see, and there's been some encouraging signs, but I want to see him do it in the game. In terms of this receiving core, they also added Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, a receiver that's also been supposedly doing pretty well in camp, which is a promising sign. I was concerned about the Chargers receiving core coming into this offseason. I harped about it all of last year. Ladd McConkey's great, but they need a true number 1 wide receiver. This receiving core needs to be a lot better for Justin Herbert. And yes, they've had some issues. Justin Herbert doesn't have that signature playoff win. I get all of that. Let's let the guy cook here a little bit. Let's let him cook. Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, and Trey Harris. This is a fine receiving core now. 2 great running backs. Let's talk about the offensive line, because that's been the center of attention over the last few days. Unfortunately, Rashawn Slater has torn his patella tendon, and he will miss the entirety of the season. Just a devastating injury to the Chargers, to what this team is trying to do. As I mentioned, they want to dominate you at the line of scrimmage, and that starts with Rashawn Slater, who's been one of the best tackles in football, signed that huge 4-year extension a few weeks ago. On the bright side, at least he got his money. He's paid, but just a devastating injury overall here for the Los Angeles Chargers. This offensive line is still really good. That is the great news. Justin Herbert's still going to have some great protection up front. Joe Alt, the former 6th overall pick, just a tremendous pick in year one. He was a rookie last year. That was kind of a controversial pick, you could say, for Jim Harbaugh. Do you go wide receiver early on, or do you go Joe Alt? They were debating between Malik Neighbors or Joe Alt. They go with Joe Alt. He was awesome last year. He's really going to have a bigger role at that left tackle spot, protecting Justin Herbert's blind spot. Still have Bradley Bozeman, a pretty solid guard. The Chargers have done a great job drafting at this offensive line spot over the last few years, and that's going to show with this loss of Rashawn Slater. They have depth. Zion Johnson will be a good center to step in here. And then they signed Mekhi Becton, a guy who came out of Georgia, was a really hyped up tackle, and he doesn't really find his home in the Jets, and I don't know if the tackle position wasn't working that great for him. He goes to guard with the Philadelphia Eagles last year, blows it out of the box, signs a big contract with the Chargers this offseason. He's now their right guard, and they'll have Trey Pipkins, who's had a lot of reps over the last few years, go in at that right tackle spot. So this is still one of the best offensive lines in football, and this is still a great offense. And as they keep mentioning it, this Chargers team had an average offense last year. They had a good running game. Justin Herbert in the passing game weren't asked to do that much. You can look at the stats. They won 11 football games because they were great defensively. They were gritty running the football. And it reminded me a lot, actually, of the Pittsburgh Steelers, what they've been doing over the last few years. They're going to keep the games close. They're going to run the football at a high level, and they're going to call on their quarterback to make plays when needed because the receiving game really wasn't that good. And Justin Herbert was okay with that. The luxury is here for the Chargers. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Justin Herbert, who is going to prove a lot of people wrong this year now with this upgraded receiving core with Jim Harbaugh in year two. There's been so much turnaround and chaos in terms of the coaching position throughout Herbert's career. He gets Harbaugh, who has a great amount of success in year one with this Chargers team. Year two should be absolutely awesome. I think the defense is still going to be really good. They were top 10 in a lot of categories last year. They were number one in terms of fewest points per game given up, which is just ridiculous. That doesn't get talked about enough. They gave up 17.7 points per game, which is awesome to see from this Chargers defense. I think they're still going to be really good. Yes, they lost Joey Bosa. This defense will still be one of the best in the NFL. The only question mark I have is this division. You're going to have the Broncos now with probably the best defense in football, year two of Bo Nix. They're going to be really good. You've got Pete Carroll now in the division with the Raiders, with Ashton Genty, Geno Smith, year two Brock Bowers. The Raiders can sneakily win 9 or 10 games, in my opinion, which I never thought I would say, but similar to what Sean Payton did with the Broncos, you could probably see the same thing here with Pete Carroll and the Raiders, with these coaches coming back into the NFL, having success flying underneath the radar. We see that from the Las Vegas Raiders. And then you look at the big bad wolf in the NFL that is the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that is going to have so much spite and revenge coming into this year. And it starts with number 15 and Patrick Mahomes. That is not a team that I would want to see the Chargers get them week one in Brazil. That's going to be a great game to watch that Friday. I love that addition that the NFL made last year. That's going to be a really fun game. For the Chargers, I think this is a team that still is going to be one of the best in the NFL. I think they win 11 or 12 games. They easily get into the playoffs. This is the year that Justin Herbert wins his first playoff games. He's going to quiet a lot of critics. That's been one of my biggest issues with NFL media, with fans, is that they want to put down people for not having success when it's not been his fault. Yes, 4 interceptions is bad. I understand that. You can go back and watch those interceptions. I would say 2 of those were his fault. The other 2, that was just bad luck. Honestly, it was bad luck. You've got to have contributions from the people around you. Brandon Staley was supposed to be this just defensive mastermind for the Chargers, and they had a terrible defense when he was the head coach. They choked that huge lead against the Jaguars. Inexcusable. I get it. They were on the road. Justin Herbert gets way too much hate. I firmly believe he gets way too much hate. I'm excited to see how he can bounce back and prove everybody wrong. Jim Harbaugh brings this winning pedigree that he's never had before, and you see that in year one, the fact that they didn't do anything special offensively. They won 11 games. That's ridiculous. That's Jim Harbaugh for you. Now you get year 2 with a better offense. Yes, Rashawn Slater's a massive loss, but You have significantly upgraded running backs. You have a way better receiving core. And I think the offensive line is still going to be really good, but it's going to be probably worse than it was last year. I think that's fair to say, but you still got Mekhi Becton. The Chargers are going to be a really good football team. Watch out for them to make a sleeper Super Bowl run. We all look at the Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills as the top 3 teams in the AFC. Don't be surprised if the Chargers throw their hat in the ring in that conversation and are absolutely a Super Bowl contender. I'm Caden Kubler, and thank you guys for watching.